Hi, and welcome to Bridges to Community. My name is Erica Lab. I'm Executive Director of Bridges by Epic in Westford.
And I'm Sarah Turcott, the Director of Community Relations at Bridges by Epic in Westford. Welcome to today's show.
Yeah, welcome. So today we're here with Jim DiGiorgio, and he is the owner of Senior Helpers here in Westford. So welcome to the show, Jim. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Sarah.
It's great.
Delighted to be here.
So could you please tell us and our viewers what private home care is and how that's different from, say, home health care?
Great question. So the way I like to think about what private home care is it allows seniors to age in place. So their home may be in an apartment building, it may be in a mother-in-law apartment, or it may be in an assisted living. But essentially what we do is we offer services that are customized based on the individual's need. It can be 3 hours a day, or it can be 1 hour a day, or it can be 24 hours a day to assist them with staying as independent as possible. There is a difference between private and home care and skilled home health. Home health would typically involve a nurse or a physical therapist or an occupational therapist or a speech therapist, and that type of assistance is normally covered by Medicaid or Medicare, whereas private home care is privately paid or with a long-term care insurance policy.
Sure. So how would it, what's a great way for someone to know what they need?
Okay. So, for example, if you had a procedure done and you were in the hospital or you were recovering from an illness and you were being discharged back home, again, whether it's your home or an assisted living or an apartment building, you would probably go home with some additional assistance from a home health agency. So if you were going in for a joint replacement, they would likely have PT, OT coming to your home. If you were recovering from a bout of congestive heart failure or COPD, or a diabetic episode, you might have a nurse coming in to check your vitals on a regular basis. And again, that would be covered by healthcare insurance or Medicaid, Medicare.
Okay, so that's more of that skilled need.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Great.
Whereas home care, the types of things that we might want to help with might be medication reminders, maybe some light housekeeping, helping with personal care, assisting with what we call activities of daily living. Sure. So it could be dressing, showering, helping out with walking, helping out with meal preparation.
Okay. What about companionship? What if someone just needs someone to?
That's a great question. So companionship is a big piece of what we do, and what we know is that for seniors staying in their home, it can be very lonely. So providing companionship, taking them to activities, maybe going to the senior center, going out to a play, to theater, to a sporting event, going shopping. Those are the types of activities that we can also help out with.
Great.
And I get meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just skipping down to my third question here, what are the benefits of using a home care agency versus using someone who's private?
Right. That's an important distinction. Unfortunately, or fortunately, here in Massachusetts, there isn't formal licensure requirements for home care. So there's a large number of private, kind of under-the-table organizations. It's important as a consumer to understand the differences.
Sure.
An agency that's registered with the state, they're responsible for taxes, state and local taxes, Social Security taxes of their employees. So if you privately hire someone, you need to make sure that you factor that into your cost, because someone needs to pay taxes, either yourself or the person that you privately hire. People get in trouble for not doing that, so we want to make sure that people are aware of that. But there's some other things. Legitimate agencies have general and professional liability insurance. Their caregivers are bonded.
So important.
A legitimate agency is going to do background checks. In Massachusetts, those are called CORI checks. So you need to do a criminal background check on a caregiver before you let somebody in to take care of your loved one. That's very, very important.
So.
Certainly there's a training aspect, making sure that the caregiver is properly trained, that references have been checked. I mentioned that they're bonded and they're insured. That, of course, is important.
Yeah, because
also.
it's a vulnerable population, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of our viewers get nervous when they call, understandably, call for a new service. So what could they expect if they're calling Senior Helpers or another home care agency? What should they have ready for that phone call? What types of questions would be good to ask?
Okay. So typically what our process involves is someone either stops in the office because they see our sign and they just have questions about what it is that we do, or they might call and say, Mom's being discharged from the hospital, or we visited Mom and we saw some signs that concern us. So it could be maybe the medications are under the couch or fell under the kitchen table, or maybe there's some expired food in the refrigerator, or maybe mom's not changing her clothes quite as often as she should be. So those are the types of red flags that an adult child or a spouse might see that might raise some concern. When that happens, we get a call, and we just ask some open-ended questions to understand the situation. If there's things that they've seen that maybe are causing them to be concerned about their mom or dad, maybe they're seeing some failure of their memory, maybe they're starting to forget some things, maybe they've wandered and gotten lost recently. So we look for those types of things. We always want to know if they're a veteran, because there is a veteran's benefit that will help pay for in-home care as well as assisted living.
That's
So
great.
it's a terrific benefit that's out there called the Veterans Administration Aid and Attendant Pension Benefit.
And is that good for partners too? Partners
It
of
is.
veterans? Oh, that's
It
great.
is, and that's kind of one of the unique things about the Aid and Attendant Pension Benefit is it's not only for the veteran, but the spouse of the veteran.
Right.
And it is significant. It is a significant benefit up to over $20,000 a year tax-free.
Wow,
So-
that's great.
And the veterans decide how to spend it, which is
Okay.
important. So it's paid to the veteran.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great. What else can you tell us that maybe we don't know about private care that or our viewers might not know that would be helpful for us to know?
Maybe important things to look for when they are searching an option like this.
I think probably one of the most important things, and I know I mentioned it earlier, is that Massachusetts is one of only a couple of states right now in the United States that does not have licensure requirements for in-home care companies. And that's important because what that means is that anyone can open up an agency and the state doesn't have any quality standards that they audit or that they measure to. It's a little bit frightening because
Right.
if you think about all of the other organizations in the senior care spectrum, whether it's a skilled nursing facility or a hospital or an adult day or an assisted living, there's very rigid regulations and there's an oversight process within our state. So what is important is there's an organization called the Home Care Alliance of Massachusetts, and they have developed a process for home care agencies to become accredited. And really what they're doing is they've put criteria in place that not only protect the consumer, but also protect the employee. So there's certain guidelines around employee vetting. So for example, making sure that a certified nurse assistant's license is up to date and valid, and making sure that they have had all of their required shots and everything is in order from a vetting process for the aides that are going into homes. But they also have put some standards in place around care plans and written agreements with clients, and making sure that you have a nurse that goes out and does a nurse intake assessment before services are started. So kind of in a nutshell, my advice to a family looking to use home care would be to go to the Home Care Alliance of Massachusetts and seek out a home care agency that has gone through the process to become accredited by the Home Care Alliance of Massachusetts. My hope, my expectation would be that when Massachusetts finally does adapt licensure, they will probably look at the Home Care Alliance standards as the model that they use, because that's been modeled based on other states,
Sure.
other states nearby like New York and New Jersey. So.
That's great. So what type of training do you do with your team members before they go into the home? What's a typical training course look like for a new hire, say?
Okay. So our caregivers, my company, we hire experienced caregivers. So that is a requirement for our certified nurse assistants and home health aides that they have worked in a related senior care industry for a minimum of 3 years. And the reason for that is that our caregivers are one-on-one in the home. So I need staff that are very well experienced in how to handle an
Right.
emergency type of situation. In addition to some state-mandated training around neglect and abuse, we also have an extensive Alzheimer's and dementia training program that's based on a TIPA Snow model called Senior GEMS.
Yeah, great.
It's a wonderful 6-module training program. And what it really focuses on is what our caregivers can do with our clients that have a cognitive impairment. So it's really focused on what are the types of things they can do at various stages of the disease.
And I would imagine your caregivers being in the home and working so closely with these families pick up red flags. Are they able to alert either your supervisors or the family members if they see something that the family should really be paying attention to?
Absolutely, and that's a very important part of the home care caregiver's responsibility when they're in the home. So they know the things to look for. If, for example, there might be a UTI that's causing someone's behavior to change, they want to look for those types of things. Or if they arrive for their shift and they see that the previous day's medications, for example, hadn't been taken. If they're not with the client 24/7 So making sure they contact the office if they see any significant changes
Great.
in a person's well-being. But the other thing that we do is that our nurse goes out and pays routine visits. Our client services manager does unannounced visits to make sure that our caregivers are following the care plan, to make sure that the caregiver and the client are working well together, and if there's any care needs changes that we're adjusting the care plan.
That's great, because sometimes seniors, especially if they're needing more care, get kind of stuck in the house. And so it's hard to get a great understanding of how they're doing. A kid that's out of town, an adult child might call and say, "Mom, you taking your meds?" "Oh, sure," but it's great to have someone go in the home, and then you have just sort of this extra set of eyes that can just keep track and make sure that they're doing okay and they're eating and getting their meds and also having a good time, getting out a little bit and being with community, which, as we know, is really, really important. So.
Well, the companionship and the socialization, we talk a lot about that. Kind of the secret sauce in our business is matching the caregiver with the client. So, we talked about the process for how a client or how a family would get started if they wanted to do services. What's very important to us when we look at a caregiver match is I want a caregiver that has experience with a particular diagnosis. So if someone has diabetes or they have COPD or congestive heart failure, I want to put a caregiver in with that individual that has the experience working with that diagnosis. But equally important is getting the personality match.
Right.
One of the examples I use is if you have someone that maybe is quiet and introverted and maybe enjoys sitting on the couch and maybe knitting or reading or enjoys quiet, and we have a caregiver that's much more outgoing and extroverted and what we would call a peacock,
Right.
it's going to crash and
I like
burn.
that,
So
yeah.
it's very, very important that we get that good match with the caregiver personality, because
Right.
socializing is a very big piece of what we do. Socializing, the companionship,
Right.
being able to sit at the kitchen table and have a cup of tea and talk, or clipping coupons and going to the supermarket together.
Right.
That's a big piece, and we know that that's important for cognitive well-being,
Yeah.
that socialization.
Absolutely.
And I think this is really great because we know senior helpers and they're really great, but it's just home care in general. These are great options to have to really bring out a good service, and just like you said, companionship and making sure folks are safe. And it's good to know to look at the website that you provided, which was
www.seniorhelpers.com/Westford.
awesome, as well as the Alliance.
I've got to
the
check this. I
Alliance-
want to make sure I get the right one. So the Home
Yeah.
Care Alliance of Massachusetts,
On the spot.
www.thinkhomecare.org.
And we'll have that up on the screen for you. So
Right.
Great. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Really
much for
love
having me,
having you on
Erica.
the show. So
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so
Great
much.
questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see
We'll
you
see you next time.
Thank you.
Wow.